Hi all, welcome to this video. In a previous video, we saw what a supply chain is. Now we know how supply chains are structured. How do companies set up supply chains within and make connections with other companies? There are multiple decisions that need to be made when setting up a supply chain. You have three levels of decisions. You have strategic decisions, supply chain strategy decisions, then you have supply chain planning decisions and operational decisions. So strategic decisions, planning and operational decisions, these are usually based upon how long term they are. So when you're making supply chain strategy or design decisions, you are talking about several years into the future, while planning decisions are usually quarter or within a year, and operational are daily or weekly operational decisions, right? And these are it's important to when setting up a supply chain to go through this process. Then when you're doing revisions to supply chain, many times the design is set. The planning and the operational decisions might change from time to time. Mostly operational decisions might change. You might change from one inventory management policy to another inventory management policy, which is more of an operational decision rather than a strategic decision. For a company, strategic decision would be something like we will make our supply chain green, or we'll make our supply chain um, completely recyclable or have zero carbon footprint or something like that. So those are strategic decisions, long-term decisions that you take, in which case then you have to decide, well, what are we doing this year to achieve that decision? What are we doing next year or this quarter? Those are the planning decisions you make. And then operational decisions are like, well, what do we do in an office to make sure that if the company is going green? So let's say that Rutgers decided to go green. An operational decision would be in a particular office, let's say the business school building. Well, they removed all the regular garbage cans and only have recycling garbage cans, and they are clean only certain times a week. And so there are other decisions. So the printing became more. If you're printing on paper, you're discouraged. Assignments are now mostly done online. So a lot of operational decisions were taken based upon that. So that's an example of decision phases of an operations or a supply chain strategy, right? So so decisions about the configuration of the supply chain. So when you're saying you're designing a supply chain, you are designing a supply chain. You're saying, well, what exactly is my supply chain going to look like? So if you consider, let's say, a clothing company that is buying, say, raw materials from China, or is buying clothes from China or any other Asian countries, they have to design a supply chain and have to place their orders in advance. So they have to know who they are buying from. They have to know how those items are getting shipped, if they are getting shipped on plane, if they're getting shipped on via sea, and then decide everything based off of that. So these are long-term strategic decisions. You're building your supply chain, right? Let's say you're locating a new distribution facility. That is also part of the design of a supply chain. You're locating a distribution facility that will cater to the local region or maybe even the whole country and help you be more responsive to customer demand. Right? So things like outsourcing functions or locations and capabilities of facilities, modes of transportation, new information systems. These are all strategic decisions that are made in supply chain. Now, planning decisions are a set of policies that govern short-term operations. They are fixed by the supply configuration from the strategic phase. So once you decide everything in the strategic phase, then some of the planning decisions get fixed. The goal obviously here is to maximize the supply chain surplus given the established constraints, right? We'll look at some of this later on in the semester. Now, one of the first steps is obviously forecasting demand for the upcoming year, and then making decisions based off of that, right? Now, planning decisions include which markets will we supply, will we be supplying, if we are doing any subcontracting, what are the inventory policies, timing and size of market promotions, and all of that are planning decisions. And finally, operational decisions, they're usually daily stuff. So once the supply chain configuration is fixed and the planning policies are defined, the goal is to handle customer orders as effectively as possible. That is what an supply chain operational decisions are. So how do you allocate inventory or production? How do you set order dates? How many people do you hire? Do you hire them full time? Do you hire them part time? All of these decisions go into supply chain operational decisions. So the key point here to realize is that supply chain decision phase, there are three main supply chain decision phases, and the design decisions constrain or enable good planning, which in turn constrains or enables effective operation. So it sort of rolls down the hill, right? So a good strategy means you can have good plans, and once you have good plans, you can have effective operations. That's the goal. So this is a simple look at how you the decision phases in a supply chain. Right? All right. I'll see you in the next video.